Will African nations ever be able to own their own gold mines? In a world where African nations often find their natural wealth exploited by foreign corporations, Burkina Faso stands on the brink of a transformative moment. They are stopping foreign companies from mining. And what prompted Burkina Faso to take such decisive action against foreign mining companies? Let's find out. Burkina Faso's bold decision to expel foreign mining companies represents a culmination of historical exploitation, economic necessity, and a powerful resurgence of national sovereignty. This shift reflects not only a response to external pressures, but also an internal reckoning with the complexities of resource management and the quest for genuine economic independence.
One thing that keeps me puzzled, despite having studied finance and economics at the world's best universities, the following question remains unanswered. Why is it that 5,000 units of our currency is worth 1 unit of your currency, where we are the ones with the actual gold reserves?
For decades, Burkina Faso has been at the mercy of multinational corporations eager to exploit its rich mineral resources, primarily gold. The mining sector has historically been dominated by foreign entities, which have profited immensely while leaving local communities with little more than environmental degradation and economic instability. Companies such as Endeavour Mining, West African Resources, and Nord Gold have taken advantage of Burkina Faso's wealth, extracting billions of dollars worth of gold with minimal reinvestment in the local economy. The legacy of colonialism looms large in this narrative. Many African nations, including Burkina Faso, were stripped of their resources during colonial rule, and that exploitation has persisted into the modern era under the guise of corporate capitalism. The historical narrative that frames African nations as incapable of managing their resources has been challenged by local leaders who recognize the potential for self-determination and economic empowerment. The collective memory of exploitation has fostered a national consciousness that values sovereignty, prompting leaders, like President Ibrahim Traore, to advocate for reclaiming control over natural resources. The economic challenges facing Burkina Faso cannot be overstated. Like many African nations, it has grappled with rising unemployment, inflation, and inadequate infrastructure. The pandemic has exacerbated these issues, leading to increased poverty levels and social unrest. By expelling foreign miners and shifting toward local mining operations, Burkina Faso aims to create a more sustainable economic model that benefits its citizens directly. The potential for local gold mining to transform the economy is immense. We will talk about that later in this video. Anyways, the rise of nationalist sentiments across Africa has played a pivotal role in Burkina Faso's decision to reclaim its gold mining sector. President Traore's assertive stance reflects a growing realization among African leaders that self-determination is essential for economic empowerment. This resurgence of nationalism is driven by a desire to break free from the legacy of colonial exploitation and reclaim agency over national resources. The narrative of African nations as mere suppliers of raw materials for global markets is being challenged. Instead, leaders are now advocating for a new model that prioritizes local control, sustainability, and community involvement. By expelling foreign miners, Burkina Faso sends a clear message. It will no longer be a passive player in its resource management. This bold move is part of a broader strategy to assert its sovereignty and chart a course toward a more self-sufficient future. This assertion of sovereignty is not merely symbolic. It has practical implications for the governance of natural resources. As African nations increasingly seek to control their resources, they are redefining their relationships with international investors and multinationals. The expectation is shifting toward transparency, fairness, and local involvement in resource extraction, setting a precedent that could inspire similar movements across the continent. Local communities have been vocal about their frustrations with foreign mining companies, demanding better working conditions, fair wages, and environmental protections. This grassroots pressure has significantly influenced the government's decision to take decisive action against foreign exploitation. As local populations grow increasingly aware of their rights and the potential benefits of controlling their resources, the demand for change becomes louder. Social movements in Burkina Faso have gained momentum, with activists and community leaders advocating for greater accountability from both the government and foreign companies. Protests and public campaigns have brought attention to the adverse effects of mining on local communities, including environmental degradation, health issues, and economic displacement. These movements have created a conducive environment for the government to pursue policies that align with the demands of its citizens. Engaging communities in the decision-making process is essential for ensuring that the transition to local mining operations is inclusive and beneficial. By involving local populations in discussions about resource management, Burkina Faso can foster trust and solidarity, which are vital for the success of its initiatives. But how can localizing gold mining operations transform Burkina Faso's economy?
Yeah, we out here getting it. 3 hours non-stop. We're going all day. It's only about 11 o'clock.
The potential benefits of this move are substantial and multifaceted, providing a robust foundation for sustainable growth and development. First and foremost, the localization of gold mining could lead to significant financial gains for the country. With foreign companies currently extracting vast profits from gold production, redirecting this wealth back into the national economy stands to create an immediate influx of capital. Imagine a Burkina Faso where the revenues from gold mining are reinvested into critical sectors such as education, healthcare, and infrastructure. Instead of profits leaving the country, local miners could contribute to a burgeoning economy that supports community projects, improves public services, and enhances the quality of life for citizens. This approach to wealth generation not only stimulates economic growth, but also fosters a sense of unity and collective progress. Moreover, local mining initiatives can create job opportunities for thousands of Burkinabe citizens. The direct employment generated by mining operations can provide much-needed income to families, ultimately contributing to poverty alleviation. Instead of foreign workers reaping the benefits, local miners can be trained and employed, fostering skills development within the community. The financial stability resulting from local jobs can also stimulate local businesses, creating a more vibrant and resilient economy. Furthermore, the ripple effect of job creation extends beyond the mining sector. When families gain financial stability, they can invest in education, healthcare, and small businesses, which leads to a more dynamic local economy. This can create a cycle of prosperity where communities thrive, reducing reliance on foreign aid and fostering self-sufficiency. Another crucial benefit is the environmental impact. When local communities manage their mining operations, there is a higher likelihood of implementing sustainable practices. Multinational corporations often prioritize profit over environmental stewardship, leading to pollution and ecosystem degradation. By contrast, local miners are more likely to understand the long-term implications of their practices and prioritize the well-being of their land. In Burkina Faso, the push for sustainable mining practices can also lead to the development of eco-friendly technologies and processes that enhance efficiency and reduce waste. This commitment to sustainability not only protects the environment, but also positions Burkina Faso as a potential leader in responsible mining practices on the continent. While Burkina Faso suffers, how do the foreign companies enjoy the exploited gold? Here's a reminder to please like and share the video and subscribe to our channel to watch more videos on Black culture, history, civilization, and identity. Let's continue now. Foreign mining companies such as Endeavour Mining, Nord Gold, and Orano Gold are primarily driven by profit. They exploit Burkina Faso's rich gold reserves to generate substantial revenues, which are often repatriated to their home countries. The high global demand for gold, used in electronics, jewelry, and as a financial asset, ensures that these companies can sell their extracted gold at lucrative prices on the international market. Many foreign mining companies operate under favorable tax regimes negotiated with the Burkinabe government. These arrangements often include tax breaks, exemptions, and incentives that allow them to minimize their tax liabilities. Consequently, they pay significantly less to the Burkinabe government than they should. leading to lost potential revenue that could have supported local development projects, healthcare, education, and infrastructure. Also, foreign companies often engage in minimal local investment beyond what is legally required. While they may provide some employment opportunities, the majority of profits are sent back to their home countries. This results in limited economic diversification and stifles the growth of local businesses that could thrive in a more favorable environment for local entrepreneurship. The extraction of gold as a raw material typically occurs without local refinement. Multinational companies often export unprocessed gold, depriving Burkina Faso of the added value that comes from refining. If Burkina Faso could develop its refining capabilities, it would retain more economic benefits from its resources and create jobs in the process. Foreign mining companies also exert control over local infrastructure, such as roads, water supply, and energy, leading to a dependence on these companies for access to essential services. This can create a cycle of reliance that ultimately benefits the companies at the expense of local communities. And despite its wealth in natural resources, Burkina Faso remains one of the poorest countries in the world. The economic gains from gold mining do not trickle down to local communities, leading to significant disparities between the wealth generated by foreign mining and the impoverished state of many Burkinabe citizens. This contributes to a sense of disenfranchisement and inequality, fostering social unrest. The activities of foreign mining companies often result in severe environmental consequences, including deforestation, soil erosion, and water pollution. These issues can devastate local ecosystems, affecting agriculture and fishing, two vital sources of income and sustenance for many Burkinabe families. Contaminated water sources can lead to health problems for communities relying on these resources, compounding the socio-economic challenges they face. Mining operations can lead to the displacement of local communities. When foreign companies acquire land for mining, residents may be forcibly removed from their ancestral lands, disrupting their way of life and causing cultural dislocation. The loss of land can lead to conflict and a loss of identity for many communities, and the revenue that could have been generated through fair taxation of mining companies often goes unrealized due to tax incentives and loopholes. This deprives the Burkinabe government of crucial funds that could be used to improve public services like education, healthcare, and infrastructure. The result is a cycle of underdevelopment that is hard to break. The presence of foreign mining companies can contribute to political instability. With significant profits at stake, there is often corruption at various levels of government, where officials may be bribed or coerced into granting favorable contracts or ignoring violations of regulations. This undermines governance and perpetuates a system where the needs of local populations are sidelined. But as Burkina Faso has started to nationalize its mine, will all these problems end? While the vision is clear, the path is fraught with challenges that must be addressed. One of the most pressing issues is the need for adequate investment in mining infrastructure. This includes not only the physical tools and machinery needed for efficient mining operations, but also the technological expertise that will empower local miners to extract resources safely and effectively. Without the right infrastructure in place, local operations may struggle to compete with the efficiency of multinational corporations. This disparity could lead to lower productivity and profitability, undermining the very goals that the government seeks to achieve. Investments in training programs are also crucial to ensure that local miners possess the necessary skills to operate modern equipment and adopt best practices in resource extraction. Additionally, regulatory frameworks must be strengthened to ensure fair competition and equitable resource distribution. The government will need to establish clear guidelines and oversight mechanisms to prevent corruption and mismanagement. Transparency will be vital in rebuilding public trust, as many citizens may be skeptical about whether local control will genuinely benefit the community. Moreover, there is the risk of social unrest. The mining sector has historically been a source of conflict in many African nations. As foreign corporations withdraw, it's essential to manage expectations among workers who may face job losses or changes in employment. Engaging communities in the planning process and fostering open dialogues will be critical in mitigating tensions. Furthermore, the historical context of exploitation may lead to a cautious approach from local populations. Mistrust toward the government and its intentions could hinder progress unless the government takes proactive steps to communicate the benefits of local mining and involve communities in decision-making processes. Finally, Burkina Faso must contend with external pressures from foreign governments and multinational corporations resistant to losing their foothold in the country. Lobbying efforts could be significant, as these entities will undoubtedly seek to maintain their interests. How Burkina Faso navigates this political landscape will be crucial to the success of its local mining initiative. But it looks like Burkina Faso is ready to face all issues.
It's quite evident that the aid is in fact not coming from the West to Africa, but from Africa to the Western world. The Western world depends on Africa in every possible way, since alternative resources are scarce out here. So how does the West ensure that the free aid keeps coming? By systematically destabilizing the wealthiest African nations and their systems, and all that backed by huge PR campaigns, leaving the entire world under the impression that Africa is poor and dying and merely surviving on the mercy of the West. Well done, Oxfam, UNICEF, Red Cross, Life Aid, and all the other organizations that continuously run multi-million-dollar advertisement campaigns depicting charity porn to sustain that image of Africa globally.
So, what broader lessons can other African nations draw from Burkina Faso's bold decision? The actions taken by Burkina Faso could serve as a powerful template for other countries across the continent. It highlights a critical turning point in African nations' approach to resource management, one that prioritizes local communities and emphasizes economic sovereignty. The implications extend far beyond Burkina Faso's borders, potentially inspiring a domino effect among neighboring nations. For instance, countries like Ghana and Mali, rich in gold and other minerals, may reconsider their relationships with foreign mining companies. Burkina Faso's actions demonstrate that African nations can harness their resources and profit from them directly. This could encourage others to adopt similar strategies, leading to a collective reassertion of agency across the continent. This movement could also redefine international perceptions of Africa. As nations like Burkina Faso reclaim their resources, the narrative of Africa as a continent incapable of self-management begins to crumble. Instead, we start to see a vibrant continent filled with potential, where local populations drive economic growth and sustainability. This shift in perception is not just academic, it has real-world consequences. Investors may begin to see Africa not merely as a risk-laden venture, but as a land of opportunity. By prioritizing local interests, African nations can attract ethical investment that aligns with their developmental goals, creating a virtuous cycle of growth and empowerment. Moreover, this decision can galvanize support for regional cooperation among African nations. Countries with similar resource wealth could come together to share insights, develop joint policies, and establish frameworks that promote collective bargaining against multinational corporations. Such unity can strengthen their negotiating power on the global stage and lead to fairer trade agreements. While the future of Burkina Faso and Africa looks prosperous, how would this decision impact the West? For Western mining companies, the immediate economic implications are stark. Corporations like Endeavour Mining and Orano Gold, which have operated in Burkina Faso under favorable agreements, now face significant financial uncertainty. These companies have long relied on extracting gold with minimal costs and maximal profits, often at the expense of local communities. The expulsion of these firms disrupts their business models and threatens their revenue streams, raising alarms among investors who depend on the lucrative African mining sector for returns. This financial loss goes beyond mere corporate interests. It sends shockwaves through their global operations, forcing a re-evaluation of strategies in a region where the risk of similar nationalistic movements is increasingly palpable. As Burkina Faso sets a precedent for resource nationalism, Western investors may be compelled to rethink their approach to African markets. The prospect of losing access to vital resources may shift their focus toward fostering genuine partnerships with local stakeholders, rather than pursuing extractive practices that disregard the rights and welfare of communities. This could mark a significant departure from the historical exploitation characterized by a one-sided approach to resource management, where profits flow out of the country, leaving behind a trail of environmental degradation and social unrest. The geopolitical ramifications of Burkina Faso's decision are equally profound. As African nations assert greater control over their resources, the long-standing influence of Western powers in the region may begin to decline. The narrative surrounding Africa is shifting from one of dependency to one of agency, as nations like Burkina Faso demonstrate their capacity to reclaim and manage their wealth. This change may weaken the leverage that Western countries have historically wielded over African governments, compelling them to adopt more respectful and equitable diplomatic strategies. Other global powers, particularly China and Russia, are poised to seize the opportunity to enhance their presence in Africa. These nations have been increasingly investing in African infrastructure, technology, and resource management, often presenting themselves as partners committed to mutual benefit rather than exploitation. Burkina Faso's actions could facilitate stronger ties with these emerging powers, potentially reshaping the balance of influence within the continent and reducing Western dominance. So, will just throwing foreign companies out of Africa change the whole power dynamics? If that's the case, will the West try to deal with Africa in some other way? One possibility is that Western nations and companies may begin to engage more genuinely with African nations, recognizing that the old model of exploitation is no longer sustainable. If countries like Burkina Faso demand better terms, the West might find it beneficial to establish real partnerships that prioritize mutual growth. This could involve investing in local industries, supporting sustainable practices, and creating equitable trade agreements that benefit both parties. Alternatively, the West may face intensified competition from other global powers, such as China and Russia, which have been keen to expand their influence in Africa. In this scenario, Western nations might feel pressured to adapt to a new reality, where African nations are asserting their rights. This could lead to a more competitive environment, where Western companies are forced to offer better deals to maintain their foothold in African markets. However, there is also a darker possibility. If certain leaders, like President Traore, gain too much influence or threaten to disrupt the status quo of resource extraction, Western nations may resort to covert or overt actions to maintain their interests. Historically, there have been instances where foreign powers have intervened in African politics, including supporting coups or, in extreme cases, orchestrating assassinations of leaders deemed problematic for their economic agendas. While such actions are risky and could backfire, they cannot be entirely ruled out, especially if a leader's policies are perceived as a direct threat to Western economic interests. Do you think the West would do something evil for its gain? They have been stealing for their benefit. Can they be more evil than that? Let us know in the comment section. Do Western companies stand a chance in African mines now? Do you want to watch more videos like this one? If so, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon next to it. We have decided to bring videos on something nobody talks about: the Black culture, civilization, history, and evidence about how glorious Blacks have been. Thanks for watching, and until the next video, stay tuned.